guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the Sentinel. Now the update is due to go live soon and we're going to have hands-on experience with that, but nonetheless I do want to make an ability breakdown because out of all the buffs initially on the surface level, I think Sentinel had the most potential if they kind of made one crucial change, which they unfortunately didn't, and that leads me to question the practicality of this champion, or more specifically the matchups he will be able to take. But on the surface level, on paper, for like questing and stuff like that, I think this is going to be a very big improvement. I do think he's also going to be significantly more annoying on defense, becoming extremely tanky. But let's get to it. So all those Sentinels were created by Mutant Elite, who had the goal of controlling the champions of the contest 100 years in the future, blah blah blah. We all know the story of the Sentinel, bad robot hunting mutants. So he actually does have quite high attack, and we can see that he has 3.5 in survivability, largely due to his, chunkiness and crit resistance, as well as the level 3, giving him a full reset of the fight. Basically, damage is 3, ease of use is 3.5, fairly straightforward champion to use, utility is 3, defender strength is 4, so he's likely going to be more on the defensive side. Let's break it down. So strength's heal block, Sentinel Special 1 is equipped with a strong heal block, made even stronger once at full analysis charges. Immunities, trio of damage over time effect immunities, means Sentinel's equipped to tackle a variety of threatening defenders and quest nodes. Spare Sentinel bot, that's a level 3, basically lets you reset the fight on your end, heal up fully, remove all buffs and debuffs. So energy resistance. Sentinel relies on shock and incinerate debuffs for its damage output, meaning any opponent who can mitigate its potency will slow Sentinel down considerably. And that is kind of the biggest worry here, especially for his class. Debuff control, and yeah, if you can't stick your debuffs, then he's going to struggle quite a bit too. So always active, Sentinel bots are immune to poison, bleed, armor break, cold snap, and frostbite effect. So giving him armor break immunity is quite vicious for a tech champion. Analysis charges, max 100. Sentinel monitors the target when they repeat the same action consecutively. Sentinel gains 6 charges. It used to be 4, so this will improve his ramp-up speed, as well as he has now Intimidate on his heavy attack, which should make the AI more compliant. And actions include light attacks, medium attacks, heavy attacks, dashing, dodging, or blocking, and attack analysis charges stack up to 100 max. When its code is focused towards X gene, Sentinel gains twice the amount of charges. So previously he gained 8 against mutants, now it's 12. So against mutants he should ramp up practically instantly with a couple of combos in the block. When opponent activates special attack, it matches their previously activated special attack, gain 20 analysis charges. This used to be a part of his SIG ability, now it's moved into his base. As a defender or in the battleground, Sentinel start each fight with 25 analysis charges. Now this is quite crucial, obviously, because this will make him faster in battlegrounds, as well as make him more pesky as a defender, because with 25 charges he's going to get at the very least 2 of these bonuses, increasing his critical resistance by like 400 off the base, which means it's going to be hard to crit against him even if you're playing perfectly, not giving him any extra charges. Back to the analysis charges. For every 10 analysis charges, Sentinel gains 222 armor rating and critical resistance, so that's going to make him extremely tanky on D. 423 attack rating. This has been improved quite significantly as well. Previously it would have effectively been 400 attack rating, so that hasn't actually been changed. I figured it would be, but it doesn't appear to be changed much. Special attacks cost 3% less power, so at max stacks he uses 30% less power, and the potency of incoming instant damaging effects from champions is reduced by 5%. This is largely to combat stuff like, Spider Ham and Power Stings in general, or even Gallon potentially, as him being the defender, basically. Now keep in mind he's a robot, so he doesn't have willpower, so remember that. Analysis complete, passive. At max analysis charges, Sentinel gains the following abilities. Personal debuffs can be inflicted through opponent's block. Shock, incinerate, heal block, and arm break debuffs gain 50% increased duration, 100% increased ability accuracy. While charging heavy attack, Sentinel becomes passively unstoppable for 1 second. If Sentinel struck, this goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. That's pretty much the same as it used to be, or very similar to it. Heavy attack. If analysis charges are less than 100, inflict an unstacking intimidate debuff for 5 seconds. This, I actually really love how they did this bit specifically with the wording, because if you are at 100 charges, you do not want the AI to be defensive. So it's very cool that they recognize that. The final hit inflicts a shock debuff, dealing 5k energy damage over 4 seconds. If Sentinel is at 3 bars of power, it consumes 30% of bar power to inflict an additional shock debuff. This again I love a lot, because you can convert, if you accidentally push yourself level 3, you convert that mistake or error into effectively more damage and then drop like a massive level 2 instead of having to use the level 3. Special attack 1, the first hit inflicts a heal block for 16 seconds. Again, keep in mind this would be increased to 24 seconds if you have max analysis charges. Successive hits have a 50% chance to inflict arm break debuff, reducing armor rating by 500 for 6 seconds and 9 seconds at max analysis charges. Now, wish this was more potent and longer, because then he would have an alternate source of damage that could potentially be quite decent. But these will expire quite quickly because they're not paused at any given time, and you know they would activate and start expiring as you land your special attack hits. And yeah, these arm breaks have been neat to have them there, but never particularly good source of damage. So special attack 2, each hit inflicts an incinerate debuff, dealing 1,481 energy damage over 4 seconds. Each hit also has 50% chance to inflict additional incinerate. Now this I kind of don't like. That I hope that they would have buffed his damage further, and I do believe that ultimately it does work out as slightly more damage. However, it should be recognized that they did in fact reduce the potency of the incinerates. It used to be 2,000 damage over 3 seconds. Now it's 1,400 damage over 4 seconds, so that each individual incinerate tick is going to be significantly less. Yes, you can get up more incinerates now, and you will effectively at max charges. You're going to get 8 instead of 4, or 6 instead of 3. But the potency of them, you know, you get slightly more damage overall, but it's not going to be crazy large amount than before. Special 3 is completely reworked. The stack destroys the current Sentinel bot and removes buffs and debuffs that were on it. Then a spare Sentinel bot is called to take its place, which arrives at full health. These are persistent and only one available per quest. As defender, regain 1 Sentinel bot at the end of each fight. While no spare Sentinel bot is available, this special attack cannot be activated. So that's kind of cool. I like that. Again, it's not necessarily Battleground's ability, but for questing purposes and like some difficult boss fights and stuff like that, this could be an absolutely awesome mint ability. So now we have signature ability, secondary ISO battery. Personal debuffs other than intimidate gain increased duration. That's good, up to 40%. Once per fight when dropping below 20% max health, Sentinel activates 3 armor ups, granting 2k armor rating for 3.5 seconds, expiring 1 at a time, so he becomes significantly chunky. And then each time one of these armor buffs ends for any reason other than pulverize or Sentinel's personal ability, Sentinel passively gains 90% of bar power. Basically, do not mess with these armor ups. Now this is largely a defensive ability. Now it could have potentially interesting, you know, it could help with application of that level 3 in a questing scenario, but let's face it, 90% of the time this is going to be a defensive ability, so to speak. And overall, like I have kind of a bit of love-hate relationship with Sentinel. Initially, I absolutely hated him, his character model, his animations, but back at the Act 6 days when 6.2, 3, and 4 came out, I actually ended up relying on Sentinel a lot, because Sentinel seemed to have all the abilities that were needed, like he could access either heal block and armor breaks, or have needed immunity and access to shock, or needed immunity and access to incinerate, so he was good for those Thunderstruck nodes and light 'em up nodes and stuff like that. And he kind of was clutch back in the day, so I started appreciating the champion. Unfortunately, the game has kind of moved on, and that goes to the champion design as well. On paper, rehash of his abilities should make him quite relevant yet again, because if you think about it, he can be quite tanky, he has access to shock, incinerate, quite a lot of immunities, and that's great. In reality, I do have a lot of worries about champion. In reality, if we take a look at the mutant class, for instance, which he's meant to hunt right now, his primary source is coming out from incinerate, and shock, for instance, would invalidate him against bishop. You don't want to put those dots on him. It would invalidate him against havoc. you don't want to put those dots on him either. He's Incinerate immune, and if you put on Shock, you're going to get blown to smithereens. Then if we go down the list of most meaningful defenders here again, against Sentinel, against Mr. Sinister, he has the heal block, which is very, very cool, but you don't necessarily want to be overly active at spamming your level 2s or heavy attacks, because those can get thrown in at you, and you would have to maintain that level 1 as well. So if he has, good enough damage source, sure, but I'm kind of doubtful he would be one of the faster options for that, but he definitely can do the fight. However, against APOC, again, you can't throw your level 2 because you're gonna get muted or shocked to death. You can't throw your heavy attack, which is quite hard to do to begin with, but still, you don't want to shock him, you don't want to incinerate him, and that's kind of like one of the calling cards of the mutant class, defenders especially. Like, yeah, you don't want shock or incinerate Onslaught, you don't want shock or incinerate Havoc, you don't want shock or incinerate Bishop. Against Dust, he would potentially be quite decent, but you would have to kind of like ramp him up slower, because again, you don't want to hit the Dust block, because that's glancing. Against Domino, he doesn't have ability accuracy modification, especially initially, so I do think you're probably going to end up taking some crit fail damage. I think you should still be able to do the fight, but you're going to take some damage in there, which is not ideal, so he wouldn't necessarily be the best Domino counter either. And basically here we are. Those are the more relevant Mystic defenders currently in the game, and almost all of them, he seems like a fairly poor option, or somebody who would be relegated at spamming level 1s, which again did not necessarily net a lot of damage previously. And then like looking at other champions, would he be great against Photon? There's a massive energy resistance on Photon, and there's nothing particularly enabling him to do that fight well. Against skill champions, almost unanimously, he would not be particularly great, because most of them shrug off the debuffs. So, Kingpin will shrug off just about everything. Then we have, similar to Korg, he's shock immune, he gets rid of the debuffs quite persistently. You can probably do that fine, but it's going to be less than ideal. Not to mention that the ramp up is going to be slow because you can't hit the block. Similar to Mole Man and, Shield. There's nothing particularly, enabling him to be a great bullseye counter. I think you can do the fight because you have the immunity to bleed, but I doubt it's going to be like wildly used counter. And then we're going to take a look at some of his compatriots in tech class. For instance, Future Ant-Man, again, champion that immediately gets rid of incinerate debuffs, for instance. And then against Red Skull, I think he should be okay. Spam level 1s, get rid of armor ups, but it wouldn't be the fastest kind of approach. And so here we are. I like the buff. I like the champion. I hope he's good. I'm just saying I have my doubts of him on the offensive end. By the looks of it, at the moment, he looks much more as a defender stall type of option with his arm break immunity and, crit resistance and everything else, kind of like extending the fight length quite significantly, unless you have, a very specific dot that he's not immune to, or guaranteed crits, which would probably be the best way around him. So, somebody like Kate Bishop would still annihilate him, though. Oh, no, wait, he's called something immune, so she wouldn't. But yeah, so if you take a look at his immunities, his bleed, poison, where are they? Bleed, poison, arm break, cold snap, and frostbite. So you can still do incinerates, you can still do shocks, you can still do all the odd and weird type of debuffs on him, raptures. So I don't know. Offensively, I definitely don't see too many great matchups currently existing for him in the game, though. So I did think that's worth pointing out. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the